Welcome to My Hero Month, a special time in this channel where every time a new season of My Hero Academia starts airing, I devote an entire month's worth of video essays to talking about My Hero Academia. We have a little tradition on this channel. The very first video I ever made was in tribute to Tomura Shigaraki, examining his parallel journey along with Deku to become the world's greatest villain. Every year during My Hero Month, we check in on Shigaraki to see how much progress he's made on his quest to becoming the greatest villain. Because one of the most interesting choices Horikoshi made in My Hero Academia was to have the series' big bad villain plot out a parallel evolution alongside the growth of its main protagonist Deku, as he grows from becoming a dumb scrub into a villainous mastermind. And boy, have there been some pretty big developments recently, as Shigaraki has made some huge strides to becoming the greatest villains ever seen in any shonen manga or anime. So come along with me as we take our semi-annual check-in on Shigaraki's journey to see if our good old Shigaraki can finally stand up to the great comic book villains like the Joker or Thanos. And just in case, don't say I didn't warn you, but obviously we'll be talking about a lot of spoilers from the manga and recently concluded arcs, so you've been warned.
俺たちの戦いは遠い。ヒーローとは正義とは何か。この社会が本当に正しいのか、一人一人に考えてもらう。俺たちは勝つつもりだ。
おいたが過ぎた。ここで終わりだ。
終わりだとふざけるな。始まったばかりだ。ゲームスタートだ。信念も理想、花からあったよ。何も変わらない。しかしこれからの行動は全てそこへとつながる。オールマイトのいない世界を作る。正義とやらがどれだけ脆弱かを暴いてやろう。そして今日からそれを信念と呼ぶ力で必ずこのヒーロー社会をドタマからぶっ潰す。我がために振る暴力は美談になるんだ。素晴らしい。そうだろヒーロー。次は俺たちだ。
So the last time we checked in on Shigaraki, he made some major strides in his path towards supervillain dominance. After the great My Villain Academia arc, after struggling and failing to hold on to any kind of power or influence, he'd finally won everything. And after defeating Redestro and claiming the entirety of the Metal Liberation Army for his own, Shigaraki has transformed his scrappy league of villains into the Paranormal Liberation Front. Shigaraki has now gained everything a supervillain could ever dream of. An army of loyal followers, commanders with connections to the highest echelons of the world of business, politics, and the financial world of the MHA universe. A legion of high-end nomus to wreak havoc upon an unsuspecting populace. But best of all for one's personal physician and scientist, Kyudai Garaki, who was promised to give Shigaraki even more power, even after Shigaraki awakened and expanded the destructive power of his decay quirk. So Shigaraki, leaving nothing to chance, agrees to undergo the procedure and gain even more power to ensure that the heroes have no chance against him. Unfortunately, this puts him out of commission in the hyperbolic quirk chamber for the better part of 3 months. But it'll all be worth it in the end, right? Or will it? Because you see, there's a double agent who's managed to infiltrate the Paranormal Liberation Front, and it's the number 2 hero Hawks, playing a dangerous game of the Departed as he tries to infiltrate the League of Villains for the sake of the Hero Public Safety Commission. And his investigation finally bears fruit. He learns the location of Shigaraki's hyperbolic quirk chamber, and then we get to what I can only call the Avengers Infinity War of My Hero Academia. Yes, every major hero, all your favorite characters are here in the biggest hero raid of the entire series. Washing Machine Guy, Dragon Lady, Hawks, Miss Midnight, Present Mike, Eraserhead, Fat Gum, Sun Eater, Gang Orca, Paper Ninja Man, Mount Lady, Sexy Meme Rabbit Girl, and leading the charge, the number 1 hero Endeavor. Just about every pro-hero character in the entire series has come together in the superhero war to end all superhero wars. Even the UA students are here, as everyone is called in this all-hands-on-deck mission to finally crush the League of Villains and the Paranormal Liberation Front before they can evolve into a society-destroying menace. A crossover event so big that even Chainsaw Man steps out briefly from his manga to make a cameo. Everyone who's anyone is here. And so begins the largest, most epic Endgame-style, Marineford-scale, 4th Ninja War obliterating spectacle to end all spectacles. The heroes convene and bring about a fury on Shigaraki's fledgling empire, and it looks like they have the element of surprise. They will ultimately win the day, having caught the villains completely by surprise. As the current #1 hero, Endeavor proudly proclaims, "You're finished!" And an all-out battle royale breaks out in the greatest spectacle the series has ever seen. A huge action extravaganza, and I'm sure that Studio Bones is looking over in depressing resignation in terms of how the hell they're going to animate this huge spectacle on a TV anime budget. Worse yet, poor Shigaraki is still stuck in his hyperbolic quirk chamber with still 71% to completion, just waiting for the damn update to finish downloading. It seems like the heroes have the advantage of surprise. They win their battles one by one, the villains are caught and completely unprepared, and it looks like the heroes have won the day. They finally dealt with Shigaraki once and for all by destroying his containment capsule. Is this the end of our great legendary superhero villain before his real legacy could ever begin? Was this like shooting the Joker in the head before he could even get the chance to fall into a vat of chemicals? But maybe not, for you see, as Shigaraki falls out of his Bacta tank, we go into the spectral quirk realm. We see his dead family all pleading him not to move on. His mother, sister, grandparents, his abusive father, and even his grandmother, Nana Shimura, try to hold him back to make him accept oblivion. But the siren call of his mentor, All For One, beckons him to keep moving forward. And we learn exactly what was happening with his procedure. Shigaraki was being transplanted with his mentor's quirk, All For One. Not only did he gain the ability to steal quirks from other people, but he also accumulated the stored warehouse of every quirk All For One had ever taken in. He rejects his final opportunity for repentance and embraces his opportunity to become a new king of hell. And once again, Shigaraki is reborn. With a burst of decay, Shigaraki announces his presence to the world, destroying everything around him. Standing alone amidst the rubble, he is the newly minted king, and he calls for his most powerful servant to come in one bold proclamation. "To me, Makia," he says, echoing the most famous scene from Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run, where Franklin Richards proclaims, "To me, Galactus." But his ascent towards godhood is not complete, because here comes Endeavor, the #1 hero ready to challenge the newly minted supervillain god. Endeavor tries to give him everything he can, but his new regeneration skills overpower Endeavor's flames. But despite this, there is still something missing. Shigaraki feels incomplete. He feels drawn to reacquiring the sibling quirk to his All For One. He needs One For All. And so Deku and Shigaraki are set for a collision course, a clash of wills that will fundamentally alter the superhuman society of My Hero Academia's world. What follows is an epic clash, Horikoshi giving his plus ultra for the art to draw the most devastating conflict imaginable. The vanguard of the old generation combines forces with the new as they try and subdue Shigaraki, doing everything within their power to hold him back. Deku brings out everything he can, using his black whip and newly uncovered float quirk, smashing into Shigaraki. Then Endeavor uses his greatest flame to burn him into a crisp to finally subdue the villain. But in his darkest moment on the edge of oblivion, Shigaraki's master comes to his student's aid while revealing the darker truth of his mentorship. Within Shigaraki lies the dormant spirit of All For One himself. All quirks like organs harbor the spirits and wills of their original owners, and within this shadow realm that Deku has visited with his power of One For All, he comes to face with his opposite, All For One, and we see Shigaraki fighting for control as All For One reveals that his gift of power was a poisoned chalice. By taking in his original quirk, Shigaraki is taking in the spirit of All For One himself and ultimately leaving his body vulnerable for the supervillain king to take over. The two forces clash in the spirit realm of quirks and minds, and ultimately Deku, with the help of the previous users of One For All, repels Shigaraki and keeps his power intact. The two are separated as reinforcements for both heroes and villains arrive. At the end of the day, Tomura is taken away thanks to the few remaining Nomu. He and his few surviving League of Villain associates are whisked away from the battlefield, but ultimately standing supreme, the teacher, the true villain from the shadows, is now the one in control. Ultimately, there were no winners in this war. Shigaraki lost all of the power and resources he'd gained from his triumphant My Villain Academia arc, but the heroes didn't win either. Cities were shattered, chaos reigned, and in many respects the hero system collapsed. Many heroes were killed, and ultimately people's faith in the heroes were shaken and broken as dealing with the devastation just became too much. Many heroes just gave up and outright quit. And Shigaraki, no, all for one, wasted little time to seize his new empire of ruin. As the world still fought to recover, he took what few nomos he still had to his name and proceeded a prison break to unleash the worst villains we've seen in the series as he prepares to finally take back his throne of kings as the greatest villain of all. So on one hand, this is a pretty dramatic and epic arc, and you could say this was Shigaraki's greatest achievement. I should give him an A+ and certify him as the greatest manga villain of all time. Well, sadly, I have a lot of issues with Shigaraki's role in the last major arc. First of all, let me go by saying I was super hyped after the My Villain Academia arc to see Shigaraki attain a position of power and become the ultimate supervillain. I loved his mobster suit, I loved that his scrappy band of the League of Villains finally had a great degree of power and influence they never had before in the series. I was super excited to see what kind of great plan Shigaraki would be able to execute with all these resources at his disposal. He was in a position to be like the Joker times 10. But sadly, Horikoshi decided to throw him into the hyperbolic supervillain chamber to power up, and on the surface level this sounds smart. Shigaraki is taking advantage of every resource at his disposal to ensure that heroes have no chance of posing any kind of threat to him. He's being smart, or is he? He did not leave any standing orders for his organization, and easily the dumbest thing was letting the number 2 hero pal around in his organization, allowing him to survey its inner workings. Hawks was monitored and considered to be suspicious, so it's not like the precautions weren't taken seeing how he had bugs planted on him, but he was allowed to pal around with Twice, the most emotionally unstable member of the League of Villains, the guy with a double personality that always says conflicting things, the guy who literally blurts out the location Shigaraki's hiding in his hyperbolic villain chamber to the most suspicious person in the entire organization. This single slip-up is what leads single-handedly to the destruction of the Paranormal Liberation Front. Every resource Shigaraki's gained is squandered. You could say that this isn't his fault directly, but come on, even the Joker shows better villain management skills than to let one of his lackeys give up his next big scheme to Batman. It's a stupid, preventable mistake that shows that Shigaraki, despite winning so many battles, still loses the war because he's still kind of a dumb man-child. Not to mention that he didn't read the fine print in terms of what he was getting when he agreed to getting more power. That he'd essentially be sacrificing his body to All for One, which, let's be honest, makes him look like a really stupid dumbass. His expanded decay quirk was powerful enough to cause trouble. The fact that he basically sacrificed his freedom and free will takes him many notches down on the villain scale, making him into All for One's bitch. That's the other issue. Shigaraki's not a punch bro kind of villain. Sure, sometimes punch bro villains who are just supreme physical threats are fun to watch. Dragon Ball's continued relevance and success has been thanks to its ability to introduce new punch bro muscled obstacles like Jiren and Broly to throw at Goku and friends, just characters who stand as huge walls built of muscle. But what makes Shigaraki special is that he wasn't training to become a punch bro supervillain. He was supposed to be a manipulator, a joker, a master planner, a man whose villainous charisma was powerful enough to overthrow the superhuman society without the need to resort to using his quirk, and he was perfectly set up to become a new mastermind with many new resources and pawns, to play at his game of overthrowing the superhero society he despised so much. But instead, Horikoshi decided to stick him into the hyperbolic supervillain chamber, to transform him into a punch bro supervillain, which is really kind of disappointing. What makes it even worse is that the real MVP of the war arc was Dabi. Think about it. Sure, Shigaraki led to some material destruction of heroes and property, but the one who single-handedly destroyed the superhero society with a single bottle of hair dye remover was Dabi. It's been long speculated that he was the fourth child of Endeavor, and in the grandest fashion on the biggest stage, as all the world was there to see, he revealed himself as the child of the number one hero, the long-forgotten Toya, who many had thought had perished away in flames of his own making. But not only does Dabi get to confront and mock his father and brother, but all the while this is going on, he utilizes one of the hackers from the Paranormal Liberation Front to play a pre-recorded broadcast nationally, proudly proclaiming he killed over 30 people with Endeavor's flames and exposing the abuse that Endeavor had forced his family to endure, even going as far as to provide DNA evidence. And if that wasn't enough, he even included footage of Hawks murdering Twice, showcasing the heroes as hypocritical abusers and murderers. It's this PR dynamite that causes much more devastation and destruction than even the rampage of Gigantomachia couldn't match up with the sheer despair and devastation that the public PR evisceration of the number 1 and number 2 heroes could be brought about. Dabi was the true MVP of this arc and did more to destroy superhuman society than Shigaraki could have ever dreamed of accomplishing. Shigaraki, for all his powering up, for all his destruction, could not match up to the power of a bottle of hair dye remover and a YouTube video. Dabi Dabi utilized the perfect timing and the resources of the Paranormal Liberation Front to permanently ruin the hero world forever, to bring about a new age of chaos where the public shuns heroes and attempts to bring about vigilante justice with their quirks and the aid of support gear. In a way, I always knew that after the introduction of Gentle the Gentle Criminal, that Deku's overall longer arc in the series would be learning how to save villains from themselves, not punching them into submission, and towards the end of this arc we saw him looking back at Shigaraki saying how he looked like he wanted to be saved. That will probably be Deku's greatest task in the way he surpasses All Might, by ultimately saving Shigaraki from All for One. I personally don't have a problem with that arc, but I think it's a really good long-term goal for Deku in terms of becoming something better than just a punch bro who wins the day by beating the shit out of everything. And it feels like before the series ends, we'll see Shigaraki pull a Vegeta and team up with Deku as they face off against All for One. But my big regret is that if this is the way things are going to go, we'll never get to see Shigaraki the supervillain mastermind. We saw him become a cult of villainous charisma and personality, we saw him fight through epic trials, but sadly we'll never get to see him as a Joker-level threat able to destroy the world with his mind instead of just his superpower. This could change before the series is over. I hope I get surprised before they end, but judging by this arc, I'm giving him a B- on the villain scale. I'm sorry, despite all the cool shit Shigaraki does in this arc, when you get outwitted by your mentor and become his bitch, then get completely overshadowed by one of your subordinates, it just makes you look dumb and terrible by comparison. I'm sorry, Shiggy, you're not a supervillain god. I hope you can figure out some way to pull it off before you eventually take the road of an anti-hero 100 chapters from now, because I'm always hoping for you to become a manga villain capable of standing up to the best scene in the world of American superhero comics. But based on this last arc, you didn't learn any of the important lessons from your Villain Academia session. But who knows, we'll see if things have changed by the time Season 6 hits of My Hero Academia. You may have disappointed me, but I'm still rooting for you to turn it around. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. A special thank you to the genius editor Zurich23M, the brilliant Russian editor whose Shigaraki tribute I borrowed from my own bastardized version. In the description I've included a link to his original edit. I'd recommend checking it out, it's great. Plus he does a lot of other TV show and anime edits that are also worth watching. Trust me, this man pumps out constant gold. But My Hero Month ain't over. We still got a whole month of My Hero goodness coming down the pipeline for your viewing pleasure. And to celebrate, we're holding this channel's first ever lobster art contest. Yes, I want you to draw a lobster quirk-themed hero in the best approximation of Horikoshi's art style that you can muster. And you will be awarded the only prize appropriate for this channel, a gift card to Red Lobster. First prize gets $25, second place gets $15, and third place gets you $10. You have from now until I post the final video to send your entries by DMing them to me on Twitter @LobsterMag. So get those pencils and digital pens scrolling to win the chance to eat some free cheddar biscuits and buttery crustacean-themed cuisine on my behalf. Also, those awesome My Hero shirts from last year are also back and cheaper than ever with lowered prices. Keep My Hero Month going all year long with the Bakugo, Explosion King, and Shigaraki successor shirts. Justify the money I spent in commissioning them in the first place. Of course, a special thank you to the League of Villains that make up my Patreon supporters, Eric Duquesne, I'll Give One, Shonen Ronin, Bari, Walking the Steps, Aaron Tony, Joseph Malty, and Carla Hoffman. It's this league of miscreants who have financed me beyond the pittance of what I receive from the godforsaken YouTube AdSense. So send in those art contest submissions, get them to me soon enough, and I'll show them off in the next video. Also, if you want to keep My Hero Month celebration rolling, feel free to check out the My Hero Month playlist featuring every video essay I've ever made about My Hero Academia. See you next week.